So again, I would invite you to sit back in your chair or sit up in your chair, whatever feels right and true and good to you in the moment. And we breathe in and out one more time, setting the stage for spiritual enlightenment and for lightness to come. Breathing in and out. So I'm always amazed, truly, when the daily word seems to be quite in line with what I was thinking about coming and talking about. And essentially, it literally nails it. My thought these days, and the one thing that I am speaking and preaching and teaching on, is how we understand that we are friends to each other. We are friends energetically to the end of whatever the end looks like, and we need one another. And this gets said way more than it should as a phrase, more than ever. But I do believe that that is true. I believe that if we don't find ways to reach out to one another, to essentially leverage energy and connection for the greater good, we will continue to be exhausted individually and downhearted as a community. I will tell you, amen. Feel free to preach, amen. You can bring the church. I love the fact that that was the most beautiful, loudest I've ever heard the congregation. And I did want to say that for mostly white people, some brown people, but mostly white people, the rhythm was stunning. Rare and stunning. I didn't really ask you to dance. It's another thing. That was a cultural stereotype. HR is not in the room. I say it with great love. So let me just take you right to a memory. 2009, August. So that's about 13 years ago, though I don't do math all that well. I was at a unity retreat. I had been leading a small congregation about this size, somewhere in the nature of 30 to 50, usually about 30 to 35 on a Sunday, in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And we met at the Morse Elementary School. That's a tough word, elementary. The Morse Elementary School, we rented the auditorium, and we sort of made church. I had all sorts of fun stuff that we threw on the altar. We had flowers. It was really quite lovely. The presence was very powerful. And it was challenging. It was exceptionally challenging to work with people who, even as I am, I think, often able to easily source the Venn between people, the understanding of what we share and what does not divide us. It was a challenging road. And so about 6 months in, which was August, I was invited to go and be part of, I wasn't preaching, I didn't know that I'd be singing, though that ended up happening at one point, a unity retreat in Connecticut for Unity of Norwalk. Has anybody ever been to Unity of Norwalk, Connecticut? Okay, so you need to drive to Norwalk, Connecticut at some point. You could swim, you could hitchhike, but it'd be easier to drive. Unity of Norwalk, Reverend Sean Moninger, was leading yearly these really amazing retreats. So I was in the middle of this retreat, and David Friedman came out. David Friedman is actually the lyricist of the song that I'm going to sing for you this morning. He wrote it. And he wrote the lyrics and the music. And David is an incredibly gifted musician. David is Sean Moninger, Reverend Sean Moninger's husband. And they've been together many, many years. And I met David, and my world shifted on its axis. And then David introduced me to a couple of his friends who just happened to be the daughter of Lucille Ball, Lucy Arnaz, and Lucy's husband, Larry Luckenbill, the actor. And a bunch of other names. Those are the only names I will drop. I was humbled, to say the least. And the authenticity with which people started to talk and to be with each other and drop any artifice blew my mind. I was able in that time, understanding that I was a newer unity minister. I've said before, I'm ordained in an interfaith tradition. I am not ordained through unity. Partly that is because it's a long road, and partly it's because my concept of God keeps changing and shifting. And in terms of the words that the Fillmores use, Emily Cady might use, some of that speaks to me, and sometimes I need a wider portal. And in this moment in 2009, I got what I needed. At one point, there was a conversation about what we have in common, and David shared that he was starting to write on the concept of kindness. And when he says write on the concept of kindness, he had written this song I'm going to sing and gotten Kathy Lee Gifford, who sang a bunch of his music, to do it on Good Morning America. So again, he didn't tell me those details. I probably would have been put off. Instead, we started a conversation that continues to this day about how we find kindness in ourselves to be able to then give it in an energy and a love exchange, essentially, to other people. Here's how that all comes together for me in interesting ways. Last night, I was driving through Beverly, which is a town on the North Shore of Massachusetts, up above where I was living in Belmont. I've taken an apartment in Beverly. My husband and I have moved into a separation phase. It's not easy, and it's right and perfect. And I know if you have been through such a thing, you understand that when there is clarity, when God is truly with you in that authenticity, then all things are possible. And so knowing that many of you care deeply for me and my journey, I'm okay. I'm good. And he is, in my absence, getting better and thriving, which is what people do when you stop codependently taking care of them. So, blessings. I was driving through Beverly last night, and what plays on the radio but an episode of Hidden Brain? I make a lot of references when I preach and when I speak. Hidden Brain is a podcast that I adore by a man named Shankar Vedantam, and it's often about how you could find life hacks to be better in the world and to have a little bit more happiness and joy and get through your stuff. And he was interviewing somebody who had written a book about human connection through the capacity we have to be kind to one another. Now, this was not a new idea that I sing what I'm going to sing and that we talk about kindness and connection. And watching the DNC all last week, the Democratic National Convention, watching moments of joy pop up amid serious issues, and thinking sometimes, as I do anyway, that I'm not sure what's ahead, literally in the next 2 or 3 months. I've been sourcing back, and this gentleman who's written a new book about this human connection and done a ton of research joined me in sourcing back to that place that we need to be able to access to find that connection. Why do we need to find that connection? We need to find that connection. I will rhetorically answer myself. I don't always. We need to be able to find that connection because we are more polarized as a people than we've ever been. And I don't preach politically. I preach from the lens and the portal of love and connection. And that has diminished significantly. So, driving through Beverly last night, I hear this. I listen obsessively to the research. I, of course, can't tell you this morning what the book is called. It's one word, mind. It's 2 syllables. Mind is the first syllable. I'll look it up. I'll pass it on to Tony, and he can pass it on to you. Or you can look up the episode of Hidden Brain. But essentially, this research was about the fact that most of us, he was talking about this very frustrating, almost dichotomy. We believe, especially as Americans, especially in our freedom, through our freedom portal, right, that we have ultimate authority over ourselves, core dominion, and how that shows up in the morning, which is where this guy did all this research, in the morning on the train to work, is that most of us attend to our book. We have something in our ears. We are not seeking connection. In fact, it's usually the opposite. And there is a belief, and this research over the last 10 years that he's done has proven this. We have a belief here in the brain that will be better for 2 reasons. One, We won't be bothering other people because we have a actually proven false belief that we are intruding and that no one would welcome our connection, our smile, our outreach for kindness or friendship. And also we believe that we'll have more energy, we'll get more done, we'll be more productive if we sort of stay inside of ourselves. Has anybody ever done this on the T, or, you're doing your own thing, right? Force field is going, cone of silence is going. And this particular researcher actually started with himself and wanted to see what it was like if he reached out to somebody else on the train. He was taking the train for an hour into New York. And the bottom line that he found was that not once in months and months of him attempting, just by saying good morning or starting a conversation, did he get rebuffed. And he said he went and asked thousands of people. He had a team of researchers. He actually went with those researchers and asked people, do you imagine that if you tried to talk to someone on the train, that would be welcome, or on a plane, or wherever, or at the bus stop, or at the gas station, or at the grocery store? And not a single person in all that research had an example that they could say of being rebuffed, of being rejected, of in that moment basically getting the hand, right? The challenge is that our brain believes that we're going to receive that rebuffing, that rejection. And so what we do is we counter that programming in order to stay safe. We counter that with a tactic of, we think, self-love and love for other by staying inside of ourselves. But here's what he came to understand, and what has always come naturally, I think, inside of New Thought, and in particular to unity and congregations like this, which, by the way, when they say is inclusive and connected and loving and that you are welcome, is true. Here's what we forget and what we don't realize yet in a big enough way. We are social creatures built to connect, and introvert or extrovert, when we take the beat to actually seek connection, to see one another, the vagus nerve, VAGUS, that runs through the body lights up a little bit. And I believe, though I don't think many researchers would say this in this way, that the spark of God within us that we've spent the last 40 minutes sourcing and igniting once again is able to sparkle. It is only in our connection with each other that we're able to find that. It is only when we seek it, however. I've explained the concept because it fascinates me. I've explained the concept from this pulpit many times of the reticular activators. That's the part of the brain that when you activate them, starts looking for whatever you're focused on. So you decide you want to buy a Volkswagen at some point in the next 6 months, and all you're seeing on 128 or on Route 3 are Volkswagens. You're not crazy. You might be crazy. I'm crazy. But the brain is able to focus. I know that in times of deep division, when we don't know what we can do, when I'm listening to an NPR report on the way up this morning, which was a little bit of a longer drive, and I had a little more time to listen, I'm listening for connection. I'm listening for where are groups of people on our planet able to see each other and have real conversation. And I don't hear it. I don't hear it. I don't see it. But I'm looking for it, and that is the first step. What I know is that I don't see it often in the larger experience I have in the world, but I do see it personally. So back to sweet little town of Beverly. One of the first days that I was living up there, it's a very small apartment that I took, but it is across the street from the beach, walkable right across the street. And so I walked down to the beach with my coffee, and I'm standing overlooking Dane Street Beach and Beverly Harbor, just quiet. And I had prayed that morning, I truly had. I had prayed that morning that God show me how to serve. I pray this every morning, and I offer that to you in 12-step circles. The third step prayer is, God, what is your will for me? I believe that there is a higher force, a loving God, that directs my actions day to day, not so much as a marionette, but as a partner. And so what I was asking was for deeper partnership. Just let me know what I'm supposed to be doing. Am I supposed to preach or sing or teach? Am I supposed to do none of that? What should I be doing with my life in this moment? And I then prayed, help me see the connection, not the division. And so I walked down. I have my coffee. I'm standing there. And about 5 minutes into this lovely, quiet contemplation, just letting the sun be on my face, I can feel somebody behind me just a little bit, and I can feel that person coming closer. And so I open my eyes, and that person is literally right here with me. And that person did not go away. There was nobody else around. That's why this was striking. That person did not go away or shift that sort of energy stream for about 40 minutes. His name is Ricky Silva. Ricky Silva, I found out very quickly, grew up right around the corner. I know exactly how old he is, 63. I know where he loves to swim. I know the names of his first and second wives. I know what he likes to do on the weekend. I know that there are many things that connect us and many things that divide us that we do very differently. This was the joyful part for me. Totally blew my mind. I can be in a place where I listen. I do a lot of listening in my work and in the world. And so I listened, and I'm listening to Ricky. I'm falling in love with him. He's just lovely. And he's saying, I have ADHD and I do talk a lot and I'm a real extrovert and I love people, and so I hope this is okay because I really like you. You're very nice. You're very calm. And he would just keep going and going and going and going. But at one point, he said, this is the only reference I will make directly politically. He said something in this flow of, and I really believe in integrity, and I'm looking for integrity everywhere, and I see a lot of integrity in Donald Trump. And there was a moment where, I just took that in. The memory moves me, because my work is to listen, right? I'm not listening for division. I'm listening for connection. But Ricky was too, because he's looking at me. I turned to look at this point at him, and I think this was probably the look I gave. It was sort of like my favorite emoji. Right? And I said, oh, okay. And here's what I said. I said, I have a little bit of a different take. And he said, oh, okay. Literally the next words out of Ricky's mouth, you said that your husband has depression. My ex-wife, she has depression, and he literally shifted from the topic. But I will tell you, it was more like Aikido than kicking somebody off the dance floor. Aikido is around and about, and I know very little, is about being in reaction to and working with what comes at you. And it was graceful and delicious how he did this. He literally sort of looked. I felt seen. Neither of us felt like we needed to go to that place in that moment, even though it's an important conversation. Neither of us had any convincing to do or proving to do. And in that space, what I have said before here, and what I will tell you again I still call, the space for grace between us could be present. And in that moment, he just kept right on talking. He just shifted the subject. It was beautiful. It was flawless. That was in the morning, 45 minutes. I haven't been down to the beach at that time again, because that was quite an experience, and I think Ricky has probably looked for me there more than once. Quite lovely. Later that night, though, I will tell you, it continued, this stream of being asked to see connection. I bought a kayak. Off of Facebook Marketplace. I'm a little obsessed with Facebook Marketplace, but I realized listening to this research last night, if you don't know Facebook Marketplace, you can buy lots of other people's stuff and you can sell your stuff. It's sort of the new, oh my God, I am nearly 60. Yeah, the new Craigslist, right? So all my furniture, lots is sourced through Facebook, and I decided I wanted a kayak to get in the water because you move like Aikido with the things that come at you. I had decided I was going to move to the North Shore because I'm a swimmer and was excited to jump in the ocean every day. And every single day, since I've been there in 3 months, the beach has been closed to swimming because of high bacteria levels. So I figured, I'm going to get a kayak and get on it if I can't get in it. So I got in touch with a woman, again, fell in love with her instantly on the phone when she told me about her life a little bit. And I went to go get this kayak from her. And she said, oh, so I went to her house. She was in Beverly as well. I looked at it, met her dog. And she said, oh, my husband has a big truck. His name is Mike, and he can deliver this. I'll come with him. Okay, terrific. I bought a Subaru Forester. I could have got it in there, but I wasn't quite sure. And so about 4 hours later, this was after the Ricky conversation in the afternoon, she shows up, and Mike pulls up with this big truck and pulls right up to, there's a barn on this property, pulls right up to the barn where I told him to pull up. Big smile on his face. She's got the dog. She's in the passenger seat. The dog is licking my face. I feel instantly connected to these people. I've been in Beverly all of about 2 weeks. Mike jumps out and with enthusiasm says, all right, if you're looking for a paddle, like don't bother any other place. Where you got to go to either Costco or if not Costco, Ocean State Job Lot. I said, okay, terrific. And the degree with which he also became Ricky Silva in a lovely, welcoming, kind, I see you and you belong here and I am your new friend energy really, really touched me. It was real. You could see that sparkle in his eyes. This part we're talking about was lit up in him. This exchange lasted all of maybe 40 seconds, maybe a minute. We didn't get into long conversation. And I thanked him and grabbed the kayak, which I can actually still do on top of my head. It's about 9 feet long. It was quite a thing. And I put it away, and they pulled out. And as they were pulling out in his big pickup truck, I saw the back of the cab, and it said, Trump 2024. And in this case, here's the point. In this case, I didn't feel the gut punch and the fear that I feel as a queer person, that I feel as a liberal progressive, to move through this fall and to stay whole. I didn't feel under threat. I didn't feel afraid. I felt connected because I could see in that moment that if I look for it, there is a connection, there is a Venn that is possible for every human being to find. But we have to do literally the nearly impossible work of extending empathy when we feel it has not been extended to us. But in this case, he had created that pathway. Ricky Silva had created that pathway. And I felt like God had spoken to me directly and said, this is what you're supposed to do. And by the way, Adam, you're not as special as you think. I love you. But this is what you need to help other people realize is their job now. To find that Venn of connection and understanding between whomever you are in contact with. Actually look for it. It's there. Try this as an experiment when you leave today and you go to the grocery store. Or even among all of you as you walk out. Find somebody you've never talked to before, or you might even avoid for whatever reason, and go up and maybe ask a simple question. How are you doing today? I will close by letting you know the other very, very, very key part of this gentleman's research. It proved over time that when we connect with each other, we want to get deep and real immediately. Again, this is contrary to our sort of social upbringing and social construct, which says it takes time for us to create those pathways before we talk about the real stuff. And the experiments he would do is he would give groups of people who had literally come together at a conference and didn't know one another. Many of them, I'm going to gender this, many of them men. And he would take scary experiments and do a lot of what I do in the world, so I was heartened by this, and ask people to pair up and to go have a conversation. And then the topics he would put up were not simple, when's your birthday, what's your favorite color? They were questions like, when you have found purpose and meaning in your life, what made it stick? if you could go back in time and repair any relationship that you feel is in need of repair, which one would it be? These are the questions he offered. Why? Because we are social beings with a heart that is desperate to connect. And so I offer that to you this morning, that the way in which you might think about doing it, keeping it simple, is just to seek to be a little bit more kind. Because I was listening for it, I counted at least 5 different direct references this past week to kindness, to either research or work that's being done or music that's being written, books that are being written on the exchange of kindness. It's not that challenging, but it takes some focus, and we're tired. All right, so I would ask you now just to take that message in, closing your eyes perhaps, and letting the light of God allow you to surrender into the understanding that whatever words you heard, whatever thoughts you had in the last 20 minutes, they are all right and perfect, and you have been restored. We have been restored. And with that restoration comes a responsibility to share that peace, that presence of God with others more deeply and more freely than perhaps you ever have. And knowing that to be true, we breathe in and out together one more time, breathing in and out. And you can keep your eyes closed if you like, or you can open them. We're going to offer a song, the song that I mentioned, and you can take this in as a meditation or more openly, whatever feels right. So many things we can't control, so many hurts that happen every day, so many heartaches that pierce the soul, so much pain that won't ever go away. How do we make it better? How do we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same things, and maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. Nobody really wants to fight. Nobody really wants to go to war. If everyone wants to make things right, what are we always fighting for? Does nobody want to see it? Or does nobody understand that the power to heal is right here in our hands? We can I, we all need the same things. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. But it's not enough to talk about it. It's not enough to sing a song. We must walk the walk about it, do or die. You and I, we've got to learn to get along. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside, we all need the same things. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And maybe we'll find true peace of mind if we always remember we can be kind. Thank you.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass., and visit us online at unityoncapecod.org. This video was made possible in part through a grant from Unity Worldwide Ministries and the Templeton Foundation.